This is Your Path with Bishop Mark from Dallas Universal Life Church in Dallas, Texas. Forget what you think you know about church.
Please rise as you are able.
The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. He entered Jericho and was passing through it. A man was there named Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and was rich. He was trying to see who Jesus was, but on account of the crowd he could not, because he was short in stature. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore tree to see him, because he was going to pass that way. When Jesus came to the place, he looked up and said to him, "Zacchaeus, hurry and come down, for I must stay at your house today." So he hurried down and was happy to welcome him. All who saw it began to grumble and said, "He has gone to be the guest of one who is a sinner?" Zacchaeus stood there and said to the Lord, "Look, half of my possessions, Lord, I will give to the poor, and if I have defrauded anyone of anything, I will pay back 4 times as much." Then Jesus said to him, "Today salvation has come to this house, because he too is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek out and to save the lost." The true gospel of the Lord. Praise to the Lord, the word, the life. Okay, be seated, please. I have a little explanation to give you, just very quickly. Last week, I did the sermon on this week's reading, and there's a reason for that. I think it's an important reading, and I wanted to make sure you got the sermon for it. The story continued, but you got the whole story. I think I got it all in there, so you knew what was going on. But today we have a little special. We have a special sermon today because of the date. Today is October the 30th. So let's talk about this time of year. Let me see if I can get this out of here without. Yeah. Okay. There we go. I say good afternoon to you. First, there was a war on Christmas. Then came the war on Thanksgiving. Now the stage is set for a spooky new holiday battle, Halloween. Notably, the clash is marked by an unlikely alliance between religious activists and progressive parents who are both determined to end Halloween celebrations, although for different reasons. Welcome to the war on Halloween. And so the question arises, is it time to cancel Halloween? The state of Pennsylvania is home to some of history's most hallowed battle sites, and Montgomery County appears to be continuing that tradition. The Lower Merion School District in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, recently announced that its annual school Halloween parade, a tradition that goes back at least 50 years, is over. Parents received letters in the mail on October the 7th informing them that the parades at all 6 of the district's elementary schools are canceled due to concerns that the parade is simply not inclusive enough. First, there are concerns for the safety and security of students parading outside among a crowd of unscreened adults in our field, explained the Director of School and Community Relations. Another reason for canceling the parade is the lack of inclusivity of students whose families do not celebrate Halloween for religious or cultural reasons. Parents, many of whom experienced the very same parade when they were kids, did not take kindly to the news. In fact, this has parents fuming. I feel like it's just crossing the line, and where does it end? Pondered Linda Joseph, a parent in the school district. So next, people are going to be offended by pumpkins. So we're going to take away pumpkins or jack-o'-lanterns or pumpkin carving. Will they be canceling recess, school sports, soccer, baseball, lacrosse, etc.? What about kids who don't make those teams? Asked Linda Fox, another local parent. Are they no longer inclusive? This is not an isolated case, as this seems to be a growing movement. The incident mirrors similar incidents of schools canceling or suspending Halloween celebrations out of concern that they leave some students feeling excluded and risk spreading cultural appropriation, among other things. Last year, a Seattle elementary school canceled its own Halloween parade after parents and administrators decided it wasn't inclusive enough. Historically, the pumpkin parade marginalizes students of color who do not celebrate the holiday, explained a Seattle Public Schools spokeswoman at the time. In alliance with SPS's unwavering commitment to students of color, specifically African American males, the staff is committed to supplanting the pumpkin parade with more inclusive and educational opportunities during the school day. Citing a lack of complaints about Halloween, critics have argued that canceling the celebrations for fear of causing offense is a good example of administrators looking for solutions to a problem that doesn't exist. But interestingly, this new breed of Halloween critic has a very unlikely ally in the fight to cancel Halloween. That would be conservative Christians. Trick or treat. Certain faith leaders have long condemned Halloween as a celebration of the occult and a distraction from Jesus' teachings. But this year has brought renewed fears from some parents who argue that Halloween is an unholy pagan celebration that might claim your child's very soul. At least that's what one Texas mother thinks, who says that the greatest threat to children today is a new movie on Disney Plus, which will corrupt the very soul of your child. Please ask yourself if not only your mind but your children's minds are strong enough to ward off the hypnotization and bewitching trance that will be coming through the screen to aid in the desensitization of the coming evil in this world. That was Mother Jamie Gooch, who's the lady from Texas, in a Facebook post that went viral earlier this month. Don't fall victim to the schemes of hell, she says. The movie entrancing children into a satanic lifestyle, the new Disney Plus release, Hocus Pocus 2. At first glance, one might mistake this theory for the plot of a B-level horror movie, a sinister force corrupting children through the warming glow of the television. But Mrs. Gooch's plea is now going viral and sparking some heated debates over whether witchcraft in cinema is a danger to children. So, is Hocus Pocus 2 a demonic portal?
Oh, God.
With the release of Hocus Pocus 2 coming up, I would be wrong not to sound the alarm and warn you to protect your children, wrote Troy, Texas mother Jamie Gooch on Facebook. It seems silly, right, that you would need to consider what is coming through your TV screen. It seems innocent until it's not. The story began spreading after a local news affiliate interviewed Gooch in her home. A sequel to the hit 1993 movie Hocus Pocus 2 follows the continuing adventures of a trio of resurrected witches wreaking child-friendly havoc across Salem, Massachusetts. But these are much more than silly movies, Gooch argues. She says they're nothing less than a tool of Satan. Please hear me when I tell you the truth, that the witches and warlocks in the satanic church abuse and sacrifice children in their spiritual rituals to gain more power in the underworld, she wrote. Per Gooch, movies like Hocus Pocus 2 are sinister plots to indoctrinate children and normalize Satanism in society. The demonic influences simply radiates out of the television. Just by putting the film on, you put yourself and your children at risk. So before you hit play on the night of the premiere of this movie, please ask yourself if not only your mind, but your children's minds are strong enough to ward off the hypnotization and bewitching trance that will be coming through the screen to aid in the desensitization of the coming evil in this world. Don't fall victim to the schemes of hell. Satanism concerns seem to be dramatically rising as of late. It would seem inevitable that Hocus Pocus 2 would end up in the crosshairs. Many have argued that the satanic panic is making a resurgence with the last few years, citing how everything from radio stations to new shoes to a one-year-old's birthday party has drawn accusations of being demonic. The Satanism worries are the same. We've simply traded out the old-school scapegoats of the 1980s like Dungeons and Dragons and horror movies for, well, perhaps nothing safe from accusations of Satanism now. The revival of concerns around anything remotely satanic has, maybe uncoincidentally, paralleled a massive growth in the popularity of paganism and witchcraft over the past 20 years. The meteoric rise in witchcraft has been dubbed a witch renaissance, as more and more young people turn to alternative faiths, feeling that the traditional Abrahamic faiths have failed them or are not relevant to their lives. And I hate to tell you, many of those who claim to have that Abrahamic faith, as we do, have failed them. They have. Meanwhile, parents like Jamie Gooch insist that we're playing a dangerous game by exposing children to supernatural themes, whether on the screen at the movie theater or on the streets during holidays like Halloween. While some mocked her concerns as overblown and paranoid, other parents have voiced their support for being cautious about what children are watching. With spooky season now fully underway, these debates clearly aren't going away anytime soon. But the threat is real, insists Gooch, and many of her fellow believers are echoing the warning. So what comes next for Halloween? The holiday remains beloved by children and adults everywhere, but these rumblings of reform leave the future of spooky season in doubt. Wiccan and pagan groups have long criticized the way that Halloween has been commercialized and divorced from its true history. And now we have religious conservatives and progressive activists aligning against the holiday. Two groups that rarely agree on anything, and yet here they are, agreeing that Halloween ought to make like a witch's spell and disappear. Regardless of the reasoning, the calls to change or cancel Halloween appear to be growing louder. The 22-year-old supermodel wife of Justin Bieber is defending her love of Halloween after her Instagram followers questioned how she can reconcile her love of the spooky holiday with her faith in God. Hailey Bieber, Hailey Nee Baldwin, recently asked her 23 million fans to help her brainstorm Halloween costume ideas. As she considered fun options like Catwoman or a Bride of Chucky, her followers labeled her a fake Christian for even mentioning the upcoming holiday. And while Mrs. Bieber has tried to contrast the real funny, goofy side she displays on Instagram with a more pious desire to represent Jesus within the modeling industry, that one little comment has since resurrected the age-old debate as to whether celebrating an ancient pagan holiday associated with occult practices and ghastly imagery makes you any less of a Jesus lover. Should Christians really celebrate Halloween? Would God approve? It may help to understand that Halloween is a holiday with pagan origins. But today, Halloween is most entirely secular, divorced from its pagan origins. But for those wondering just what the big deal is between Christians and Halloween, the late evangelist Billy Graham's website sheds some light. Don't believe me? Believe him. For some people, this holiday is a time for dress-up and candy. It is an opportunity for fun, begins the explanation. Others express concern for their children's safety or for the emphasis that is often made on violence or horror at this time of year. They are aware that some groups celebrate Halloween as a tribute to Satan. There's also the concern that some use Halloween as an excuse to let their worst impulses loose. Some kids engage in criminal mischief, some adults drink too much, and everyone probably eats a little too much candy. And some Christians might turn their nose up at the horror movies many watch during October, many of which are focused on occult figures like ghosts and demons. However, Graham goes on to point out that as the precursor to All Saints' Day, Halloween is also tied to Martin Luther and the Reformation, and then can therefore be celebrated by Christians as a tribute to religious freedom. Graham's website also suggests that for those Christians that are truly struggling, dressing you or your children as positive role models from films or comics or even Bible heroes might be a good compromise. Or they say accept it as an opportunity to evangelize about Christ's love to the scores of candy-seeking children coming to your door. So is Halloween harmless fun or demonic corruption? Before you follow Graham's advice to ditch the regular ghoulish costumes and provide gospel tracts to doorbell-ringing children, remember that dressing up on Halloween as Mrs. Bieber was all but crucified for on social media is no less Christian than taking your kids to the mall to see Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny. Neither has much to do with Christianity in the first place. We're lucky enough to live in a country where the separation of church and state means that otherwise harmless secular holidays, even those steeped in ancient pagan traditions, don't have to be forsaken. Perhaps it's best not to overthink what has essentially turned into a costume party for children throughout the years. After all, there are plenty of wholesome activities family can partake in together this Halloween season. Carving jack-o'-lanterns, roasting the seeds, hanging orange lights around the house, even dressing up in matching costumes. Ultimately, we as Christians may want to consider embracing the community aspect of Halloween and love thy trick-or-treating neighbors by supplying lots of good candy. Woohoo! Amen. Okay, folks, it is time. Well, let's just do this. There it is. It is time for everybody's favorite part of the service. That's right, the announcements. Pray at DallasULC.com. Pray at DallasULC.com. That's an email address, folks. If you have a prayer request, you just send us an email. You may be anonymous or give us your name. We pray every day here at Dallas Universal Life Church. You can ask for your prayers to be said during our daily prayers or during our prayers and intercession on Sunday. Pray at DallasULC.com. Compliments, concerns, suggestions, and complaints. Compliments, concerns, suggestions, or complaints. You have one of those, you're going to need one of these. That's a feedback at DallasULC.com, which is an email address. Feedback at DallasULC.com. Have one of those, send us an email. I think it's pretty self-explanatory there. Hey, did you know we had a podcast?
We have a podcast?
We do. We have a podcast. We've been going on for, we're going on with 5 years, a little over 5 years now. Well, no, we had the service in the church about a year before we started the podcast, so we're about 6.5 years old now, so about 5.5 years for the podcast. If you haven't gone to check out our podcast, please go do so. It's a little different listening to the podcast or seeing our podcast on Spotify than being here in person or even seeing our podcast on YouTube. There's something about it that I just find that I always catch something a little different. You might ask me, well, Bishop, how do I go check out your podcast? Well, that's very simple. You just go to your favorite provider, your favorite search engine, and type in Your Path with Bishop Mark, Your Path with Bishop Mark, or you go to Alexa and you say, Alexa, play Your Path. And hopefully she'll play Your Path, like she's doing right now all over the world right now. They're going to have Alexa near their computer, okay? Or If you don't want to do it that way, go check out one of these wonderful providers that puts our podcasts up there for free for you every single week. And that would be Anchor by Spotify, Stitcher, Radio Public, Apple Podcasts, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Castbox, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, TuneIn, and there's one more, iHeart. Did not get on here again because I put it on there earlier. I swear I did. iHeartRadio is our latest to pick us up and have us on their site. So we are very proud of that. Thank you, and please go check out the podcast if you haven't yet. If you have, go check it out again. You can't make a difference. We are a all volunteer church. None of us here take a salary, not even myself. The only way we make it is through our tithings of our community, of our members here, and through donations from people like you out there. If you like what you're hearing here, if you believe in this message of an all-inclusive, all-loving, all-forgiving God that we are offering, a true meaning of Christianity to the world, please consider making a donation to Dallas Universal Life Church. We could really use it. We could really use your help. Just simply go to DallasVLC.com and click on Donate. We are a 501c3 corporation, which means we are tax deductible. So that could be a little perk for you. But please consider making a donation. We need it to keep going. And without your help, we won't exist.
True story.
DallasVLC.com. Click on Donate. Now, I do get every time I talk about that donation thing, Bishop, I want to donate. I want to give my time. I want to give my money, but I don't have any. I'm broke. Well, guess what? I am too. So what do you do? What do we all do when we're broke? Well, you go volunteer your time. That's what you got. You got some time. Time is worth money. We could always use your help here at the church. There's never enough hours in the day to get things done. And if you want to go check out some of the positions we have available for volunteers, go to DallasVLC.com and click on Volunteer. There you find a list of the positions. If you don't like one there, that's okay. Come on in anyway. There's plenty to do. There's never enough hours in the day. We'll find something for you to do. I promise. Great way to get to know your fellow congregants and to get to know your church. And help out the world as well. Okay. What do you say?
20 seconds.
Smart Alec. So how long was that video?
20 seconds.
All right, I'm not gonna harp on this time, guys. You'll notice that I don't know if any of you noticed. So I know you must have because none of us have our masks on. That I changed the opening requirements here at the church on the screen here. That didn't say masks are required at all times. It says masks are not required, but they are, what does it say? Suggested. So you don't have to wear them, but we do suggest you still do if you'd like to remain safe and protect yourself and others. Wash your hands. 20 seconds under soap and water. Wash your hands. Take the towel. Dry your hands. Take the towel. Turn off the water because you don't want to touch that dirty handle. Go and use hand sanitizer if it's available. Do this every time you touch something besides yourself. And if you do touch yourself, do it then too. It's that simple. Wash your hands, folks. It's the easiest way to stop these kinds of diseases from getting around. Get your vaccines if you haven't done so already. Please go get your vaccines. Please. You are a ticking time bomb if you haven't, because that disease can get into you and can mutate and then attack the world again. Please go get your vaccines and practice social distancing and wear your masks. That's it. It's that simple. I know the world's different now. I get it. It's change, and that's what the universe does, and we have to roll with the punches. Sometimes they're great, sometimes they're not so great. Just keep rolling, though. All right. Guess what? We can keep rolling right out of dismissal. Right out of here. Okay. Guys, I'm going to ask you, I'll ask you now, talk a little bit about Halloween in our sermon today. And a lot going on with that, a lot of debates going on with that.
I'm actually kind of surprised, from what I've heard, that's a little bit crazy. I mean, to think that...
They believe it 100%. I mean, look, it came from pagan origins. It did.
Yeah, and we also have to keep in mind what...
So most of our holidays, first of all.
Pagan means foreign, right?
But you understand, we're talking about the pagans. They were Druids, okay? They did practice in ceremonies and in beliefs that we find against our way, against our religion, against God's law. So that's where that comes in. You got to think about it this way. Look, I'm going to tell you straight up the way I feel about this. Most of our Christian holidays are based on, or they're not based on, but they fall on the dates of pagan holidays. Now, why is that? Well, I just think the early Christians were great marketers. Think about this. First of all, the holidays they're already having on those days, right? So they already know that's a bank holiday, right? You don't have to work that day, whatever it is. There's your holiday. Integrate your holiday into that. Brings these people into your church. I mean, look, we're talking some pretty crazy stuff here. We're talking about this guy getting killed, saying he's the Son of God, rising from the dead, and then ascending into heaven. And we want you to believe that. Sometimes it takes a little bit of compromise and kind of working your way into something like that to get these people to come to church. I mean, obviously it worked. I mean, the Christianity is a huge success in the world, right? So, I mean, the other thing they did is, what do we do more times every day, just about? I think probably more times every day than anything else. We eat. We eat at least 3 times a day, right? And what do they say? Pray. The Lord's Supper. We're celebrating this Eucharist, right? Do this in remembrance of me. Every time you drink and eat, remember me. Well, that's great marketing. I mean, that's what we do 3 times a day. They don't say, every time you go to bed, say this. Every time you go take a shower, say this. No, it's every time you eat, remember Jesus Christ. I think it's great marketing. Great marketing. Anyway, what I want to ask you guys, I digress. See what happens when I don't have my script? Do you want to do a round table on this?
Actually, yeah.
Okay.
That'd be cool. What do you think?
Okay. It's gonna be. We ran way over today, Gavin, because of some more technical problems that we had. I was ready at 3 o'clock until the whole ceiling came down on me. Right. We were trying to move a file from a PC to a Mac. We didn't have the adapter for a USB to a USB-C, which was a problem. We tried to send it over. What was it called? Dropbox. It didn't want to go. And then we lost most of it. So that's why we had some interesting slides today and some interesting music that we weren't expecting. But that's okay. We got through church and we had a beautiful time. Let us rise for our dismissal, guys.